Everybody rolls around. I lay on my weekday boots down. I put on my glove rags and pay the time. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, yeah, yeah. 'Cause that's when I party down. Party down. Party hard. Party down.
Welcome back to Weekend Warrior Show. This one for March 20th, 2026. I'm happy to say that the numbers is kind of back after the maintenance. It's busy upgrading and updating its entire site, so it's slowly coming back. But it did have the weekend box office available this weekend, so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. Not going to spend a lot of time. There were 2 new movies in wide release last weekend. Nothing too major, nothing too big. Both of them did better than I predicted, which is a really good sign for the box office, I think. It didn't really matter because Pixar Animation's Hoppers won the weekend a second time. 28.5 million, dropped 37%. But that's really great for an animated family film. Even though Sony Animation's GOAT is still playing in theaters and doing well, Hoppers is just, it's finding an audience, which is great. It's made 86.8 million so far. And that's just in 10 days. The Colleen Hoover adaptation, Reminders of Him, also did really well this weekend, better than I predicted, with 18.3 million in 3,402 theaters. It opened in second place, about where it was expected. It was followed in third place by Undertone, the new horror film from Ian Toisson and A24. That opened in 2,570 theaters, but it did very well with 9.3 million. That's about 3,634 per theater. Both these movies did better than expected. They didn't bomb. They second and third place. Great. Now there's Scream 7 in its third weekend. It dropped to fourth place with 8.3 million, down 51%. It has made 106.5 million so far. I don't have the numbers to see how that compares to the other Scream movies, but I think it's kind of up there with the biggest of the movies so far. I mean, I think it would probably end up being the biggest movie in the franchise. Fifth place went to GOAT, Sony Pictures Animations movie, with 4.7 million, down 27%. Also very good. Schools are out for spring break right now, so I might point to why these animated movies did very well. That movie has made 90.6 million so far, so it's just a little ahead of Hoppers, even though it's been in theaters for 5 weeks or so or more. Sixth place, The Bride, Maggie Gyllenhaal's movie. Rather unfortunate, 70% drop. 2.1 million. It's made 11.3 million so far. It is pretty much a bomb. It might be out of the top 10 by next weekend. It might hold on a little more, but who knows? Seventh place, another family film, another animated film, Kiki's Delivery Service, big popular Miyazaki movie, reissued into 249 theaters. It made 1.7 million, enough to make it at seventh place. So these reissues are doing very well. And there's another one, actually in ninth place, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, was released into 1,372 theaters, and that made 1.5 million for the weekend. So that's up to 80.1 million since it opened, 30 years ago or so. I don't know. Anyway, studios keep reissuing these movies. They still end up bringing in business. Seventh and ninth place were reissues of previous family films. I don't know what to say about that. Eighth place, Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights with 1.7 million, down 55%. It has grossed 81.9 million so far. I think it's doing okay. I mean, again, I think it should have done better. I really liked it, obviously. Wrapping up the top 10, it was Crime 101 with 1.1 million. It's made 35.5 million so far. Not great. The movie Slanted, which I thought was going to open wide this weekend, it ended up opening just kind of moderately in 588 theaters. It opened with just 617,000. Pretty bad. Outside the top 10, I think it's like number 14. Speaking of re-releases, Sony decided to re-release Anaconda, the new one, starring Jack Black and Paul Rudd, back into 1,000 theaters this weekend. I have no idea why they did that. It's done. It's done in theaters. It's not even made 65 million so far. Give it up. Give it up. Dump this movie on Netflix or whatever. No one wants to see it in theaters anyway. Yeah, there really isn't much else worth noting, so let's just get right into the new movies. So let's do that. Okay, so the next bit of this show, I'm recording on Sunday morning. Oscars are in about 6 or 7 hours from now. Anyway, the big movie this coming weekend, opening in over 4,000 theaters, is Amazon MGM's adaptation of Andy Weir's sci-fi novel Project Hail Mary, directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, from a screenplay by Drew Goddard, who also adapted Weir's novel The Martian. First, let's look at the trailer.
I understand that you think I'm the right person for this mission. I understand the stakes.
Object approaching.
If we do nothing, everything on this planet will go extinct, including us. Dr. Grace. The world is counting on you.
I'm not sure I need to say too much more about this movie's plot. Either you've read the book by Andy Weir or you've seen all the trailers and commercials for it. But essentially, this is a vehicle for Ryan Gosling, and that vehicle is a spaceship. But he's not alone up there because he meets a cute alien he names Rocky. And the two of them try to solve a problem that is plaguing the galaxy, potentially killing everyone on both their worlds. Before getting to the box office history for Ryan Gosling, which is quite an interesting one, in fact, let's look at some other outer space sci-fi movies. We'll have to start with Ridley Scott's 2015 movie, The Martian, starring Matt Damon, since that was also based on an Andy Weir novel adapted by Drew Goddard. It's still one of Ridley Scott's bigger recent movies when it opened with $54.3 million after premiering at the Toronto International Film Festival. It grossed $228.4 million domestic and $630 million worldwide, so it also was one of Matt Damon's biggest movies. It was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, with Damon and Goddard receiving nominations. That's all a good sign for Project Hail Mary, being the follow-up to Andy Weir's previous novel. So those are both good signs for Project Hail Mary to do really well at the box office, but also possibly at the Oscars, which happen next year. Another good comparison is 2013's Gravity, starring Sandra Bullock as an astronaut stranded in space. That was directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who won the Oscar for that movie. It opened with $55 million, so even better than The Martian. It made a whopping $274 million domestic and $449 million overseas, definitely capitalizing on its own Oscar efforts. That movie won 7 Oscars versus just getting nominated for 7 Oscars like The Martian did a few years later. Another comparison is Christopher Nolan's outer space movie Interstellar, which also did very well, opening with $47.5 million in November 2014, making $188 million domestic and $493 million overseas. So basically, $681 million globally. It also won an Oscar for visual effects. So in 2016, a year after The Martian, the Denis Villeneuve-directed Arrival was released. It wasn't necessarily an outer space movie, but it does involve first contact and communicating with aliens. It opened lower than those other movies I mentioned with $24 million, but it still hit $100 million domestic and more than that overseas. It got 8 Oscar nominations, including Villeneuve's only nomination for directing, and won an Oscar for sound editing. The point is that all 4 of those movies opened within a 5-year period before COVID. And it's also important to note that all 4 of those movies opened in the fall to take advantage of the holidays and awards season, where Project Hail Mary is opening in mid-March, similar to Dune Part 2 a few years back. We'll get more into that in a little bit. If you want to look at other examples of big stars out in space, you can go back to movies like Steven Soderbergh's remake of Solaris and James Gray's Ad Astra, starring George Clooney and Brad Pitt, respectively. At the time, those were 2 of the biggest stars, up there with Matt Damon, and one could argue that they're also bigger stars than Ryan Gosling. Neither Solaris nor Ad Astra did very well despite their big stars. Another comparison could be Adam Sandler's Spaceman, but that was on Netflix, and it wasn't taken nearly as seriously as those other outer space movies. But let's get back to Ryan Gosling. Some may forget Ryan Gosling has already gone to space, specifically playing Neil Armstrong in Damien Chazelle's First Man, which didn't do that great considering that it was the follow-up to Chazelle's Oscar-winning La La Land, co-starring Emma Stone, who won her first Oscar for that movie. Damien Chazelle also won an Oscar for that movie. Now, La La Land opened in a limited release, but eventually made $151 million domestic and almost $300 million overseas. So when Gosling and Chazelle re-teamed for First Man in 2018, most people thought it would be a slam dunk and a good-sized hit, but it only opened with $60 million and made less than $45 million domestic. And it only did slightly better overseas, but it only made $105 million globally, based on a $59 million budget, so it just barely broke even. In more recent years, Gosling has starred in 2 very different movies. One as a co-star that got him another Oscar nomination, and then next summer, a much ballyhooed action movie remake of a television show, which did okay, but it wasn't huge. Playing Ken in Greta Gerwig's Barbie movie in 2023 opposite Margot Robbie was a huge boost for Gosling's career. That movie was an enormous hit, opening with $162 million on its way to $636.2 million domestic and $810 million overseas. So that's $1.4 million worldwide. That was probably Gosling's biggest hit. Elevated him to an A-level star for sure. And then, like La La Land, he followed it up with another movie that people thought was going to be a big hit. And that was the summer 2024 release, The Fall Guy, which was based on the popular TV show from the 80s. It actually kicked off the summer season that year with no Marvel movie. And it only opened with $27.7 million. It didn't even make it to $100 million domestic. And they ended with just $181 million globally, which is just terrible for a big, high-profile action movie like that one. It's interesting to note that Gosling followed up La La Land with First Man. He followed up Barbie with The Fall Guy. And he's just kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. It's interesting to note that Margot Robbie didn't necessarily become an automatic box office draw, either due to Barbie or due to playing Harley Quinn in 3 movies, one of which did better than the other 2. Robbie's name still gets movies financed, as does Gosling's. Just because Gosling has had these huge hits does not guarantee that Project Hail Mary will be a huge hit just based on his name. It's based on a lot of different factors, including the genre, being based on a best-selling book, and Gosling. I decided not to get too far into the Lord and Miller aspect of the movie, They're both great directors. They've made some decent-sized hits with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and 21 Jump Street, both which got sequels, but they're also both comedies. I won't get into the fact that they directed Solo or Star Wars Story and then left midway through. I'm not sure whether to credit them for that movie not doing as well as it could have under Ron Howard. It's hard to really use any of the other movies in comparison because they haven't really done a movie like this besides Solo or Star Wars Story. So I'm not going to factor them to the mix. Personally, I mean, I like them. They're nice guys. I think they made an okay film, but I don't think they're as up there with like Christopher Nolan or Alfonso Cuarón or Denis Villeneuve as far as directors who get people to theaters. I think it's more about Ryan Gosling. The movie also stars Sandra Hüller, who maybe 5 or 10 people saw in the 2023 Oscar winner Anatomy of a Fall, which only grossed 5 million domestically, but did better overseas. Her presence could help with the European box office, but I generally don't think she'll bring many people in just to see her. Project Hail Mary has been screening for film critics, influencers, and insiders for weeks, and has mostly been getting positive reactions. At the time of this recording on Sunday, it's at 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, with 129 reviews. Amazon MGM knew they had a winner here, and their marketing has been nothing but, as they say. I'm going to set aside my own feelings for Project Hail Mary since I'm probably a bit of an outlier, even though I did give it a mostly positive review. The mostly positive reviews will certainly help get people more excited to go see the movie, and Project Hail Mary has already had previews as early as last Friday the 13th, although most of these early previews will probably be rolled into Thursday previews, so expect a lot of front loading. Project Hail Mary is playing a lot of premium formats like IMAX, 70mm, and 4DX. Those will automatically jack up the ticket prices and the potential box office for the next few weekends. Being Oscar night, there's a very good chance that Amazon MGM will buy ads for Project Hail Mary at the Oscars. Considering how many movie lovers watch the Oscars every year, it's a good chance that they'll see an ad for Project Hail Mary and get them more interested if they didn't know about it already. On top of that, the movie has a PG-13 rating at a time when we're getting so many R-rated movies. And because of that, some older kids might convince their parents to take them to see it, especially since the alien Rocky does have an effect similar to E.T. or Grogu, even if the movie's nerdy science and slow expedition might put a lot of kids to sleep. So it could be a win-win for parents. Project Hail Mary is a very long movie at over an hour and 39 minutes, which cuts back on the number of screenings it can have per theater. But that's never hurt bigger and longer movies like Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer or Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which, ironically, I'm going to rewatch in a few hours. Even so, I have a feeling Project Hail Mary is going to be huge this weekend, with an opening of around 65 million or more. Not quite Dune Part 2 numbers, but it's also not a sequel. It might require a little more time to build word of mouth and get people to go see it. Either way, we've had a lot of massive genre hits in March, possibly going back to Zack Snyder's 300. Either way, I think Project Hail Mary has a good chance of making 200 million or more over the coming months, leading into the summer box office, without a ton of direct competition. Now, some might think that opening another genre movie against Project Hail Mary would be a fool's errand, but that's exactly what Disney subsidiary Searchlight Studios is doing with Radio Science's Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. So let's watch the trailer for that, and then we can talk about it afterwards.
The game will begin
They're coming. They're coming. Oh my God.
in 5, 4, 3, 2. Do you have any questions?
Can I have a cigarette?
The filmmaking collective known as Radio Silence is pretty well known among horror crowds due to the shorts they made for the VHS and Southbound anthology movies. In 2014, they made their first feature called Devil's Due, which I don't think I've seen, but I believe it's a found footage horror movie, and it opened with 8.3 million in January 2014 and made just 15.8 million domestically. Can't remember if I've actually seen it, but I heard it was pretty bad. If you look at the movie's Rotten Tomatoes score and popcorn meter, those kind of confirm that it is very bad. That brings us to 2019, a few years later, and they made the next feature called Ready or Not, starring Samara Weaving. It opened in August 2019 with a similar 8 million opening as Devil's Due, 2,855 theaters. But it actually opened on a Wednesday, so it actually did 11 million in its first 5 days, and that's on a budget of 8 million. So when it made 28.7 million domestic and about the same overseas, that was definitely profitable for post-Disney Searchlight Studios. The filmmaking collective Radio Silence includes directors Matt Bettinelli-Alpin and Tyler Gillette. After Ready or Not, they went to make 2 Scream Legacy sequels in 2022 and 2023, as well as the vampire movie Abigail a few years back, putting them among the top horror filmmakers currently working. Ready or Not 2 reunites Radio Silence with Samara Weaving, who had previously seen Joe Lynch's action movie Mayhem with Steven Yeun, but I guess more people knew her from the popular The Babysitter movies on Netflix. I'm not sure when I learned that Hugo Weaving, Mr. Smith from The Matrix, was her uncle, but that's a pretty cool person to be a nepo baby of, if you ask me. Weaving has been in a lot of action and genre films, including Guns Akimbo, Azrael, and the recent Borderline. But I personally loved her appearance in Damien Chazelle's Babylon, because she's gotten a lot of comparisons to fellow Aussie Margot Robbie, and that movie put them in many scenes together. Weaving also had a small part in Scream 6, that I don't even remember, but it's been a while since I've seen it. Ready or Not 2 also reunites Radio Silence with Catherine Newton, who starred in Abigail. She's playing Samara Weaving's sister in this one. More importantly, the cast also includes Elijah Wood and Sarah Michelle Gellar, both very popular among genre fans for the Lord of the Rings movies and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, respectively. There are many people who might go see this movie who didn't see the first one based solely on their presence. So obviously for this one, Radio Silence has been able to put together a much bigger and better cast. If you can't tell, I'm recording this before I've actually seen the movie, which won't be until Tuesday afternoon, but it's already premiered at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and reviews out of the festival have been mostly positive. It's currently at 83% on Rotten Tomatoes from 24 reviews at the time I'm recording this. Critics not seeing it at South by Southwest will be seeing the movie this coming week, and one can expect the reviews to soften going into Wednesday and Thursday after I record this. We'll see how far it drops. Right now it's 83%, which is pretty good. Either way, Ready or Not 2, here I come. There's a lot going for it, even though opening against Project Hail Mary may make it a lesser choice for males of a certain age, say over 25. That could definitely cut into its opening weekend, but I still think it could bring in 10 to 12 million this weekend because it's horror versus sci-fi, and those are two very different audiences. The original Ready or Not movie probably has become more popular in the 6 years since the first movie opened, mainly because it's been on streaming in that time. Another genre sequel opened this week is the Bollywood movie Dhurandhar: The Revenge. It's the follow-up to last year's Dhurandhar, which grossed 19.7 million domestic after opening with 2 million in 391 theaters. The movie also made 117.6 million worldwide, with 109 million of that being just from India. The sequel is opening in more theaters, reportedly 900 plus, and ticket sales have been great so far. It's also opening on Thursday, with previews on Wednesday, which are cut into the weekend box office. Now, like Ready or Not 2, the original 3-hour plus movie has also been playing on Netflix. There's also a chance it could have found a larger audience from being available to watch on streaming. The problem is that it's opening up against two stronger genre movies, including a much longer awaited sequel. So we'll have to see if this can make more than 4 or 5 million over the 3-day weekend. Right now, I don't have a theater count for Viva Pictures animated The Pow Pow Fish. I also don't have access to the numbers. It's still under maintenance, so I can't really see other movies for comparisons. But Viva Pictures movies have not done very well so far. I'm not sure this will do much better. I haven't seen the movie. I know nothing about it, except it has a few known names doing the voice cast, like Nick Offerman, Amy Sedaris, and Miranda Otto. And that's all I know. But I'd be shocked if he gets to the top 10. I guess it's possible if he makes 1 million or so. Before we wrap up this week's show, I want to make sure you're aware of a new movie called Toe, starring Rose Byrne, which is being released by Roadside Attractions, probably a little more moderately or limited this weekend. It was a great movie. I saw at Tribeca last year. I also interviewed filmmaker Stephanie Laing, and though I'll probably run that interview separately from this, I also want to share it here. So if you want, you can stick around and watch that interview right here.
I'm really running out of options here. I need to work.
So you have a vet tech license, but no college degree.
You need a college degree to stick a thermometer up a dog's ass?
So how long you been sleeping in your car for?
7 months.
Did at least a nice ride?
It's a 91 Camry.
Hey, Mom. Hi, honey.
Miss you.
I miss you too.
Any luck on the job hunt?
I have a plan.
You know what God does when he hears about our plans?
Ow!
He laughs.
Hello?
Yes, I'd like to report a stolen car, please.
My 91 Camry!
We found your blue Toyota Camry.
I'm Amanda. You have my car.
$273.
I have to pay that to get my stolen car back? Please.
Please don't cry.
Please. This ain't over. I'd like to sue Kaplan Towing.
Hi, my name's Kevin Eggers. I'm a lawyer.
How old were you?
24.
My car is older than you.
Stephanie, so nice to meet you. I feel like, it's funny. I saw Toe at Tribeca last year, and I said, oh, she did physical with Rose Byrne. I didn't realize that I'd probably seen so much more of the work you've done over the years.
Oh.
Either Veep or Tracy Ullman. It's like, it's really, you go, not to make it age you, but you go back a long way with television.
I'm changing my look all the time, so no one knows.
Congratulations on Toe. It's coming out in a couple weeks, and I love the movie. It's amazing. Don't tell Rose, but I actually like it better than the one she got nominated for an Oscar or whatever. But it's a great performance, a great story. How did you find out about it? Had the writers already been developing something, and then you came on board, or do you?
Yeah, one of the producers lives in Seattle, and he had read about Amanda, and then had a script commissioned, and then they sent it to me. And you read a lot of stuff, and you want to love it, and most of the time you don't. And this one I devoured it. I was like halfway through, just flipping pages and just like stunned at the story and frustrated for her and cheering for her, but then like couldn't believe the stuff she was having to deal with, but also felt like we all fight broken systems all the time. So I think I got to the end of it and and knew I had to tell it, and I like read it that night. I mean, I read it so fast. And then the next day I was like, please, I want to do this movie. And I was on the phone with the producer saying, I have to do this. And I was working with Rose on physical at the time. She walked by and I said, it's Rose Byrne. And thankfully Rose agreed that it was Rose. And then, and then we rewrote it more in her voice. And at that point, like I did had a lot of conversations with the real Amanda and the real Kevin, and some of what they had said, like, informed the revised script, and we put more things in there and really focused on the characters. And so I just was like, at some point I feel like I took on Amanda's fight, and then after Rose and I met Amanda, we were like, there's no way we're not telling this.
Like I said, I saw it at Tribeca last year, but as I watched it again recently, I completely could not remember if it was a real story, real person or not until the very, very end. I was like, wait, was this a real story, or is this like a, a combination of people who've gone through this in Seattle? But did you write Family Squares yourself? Was that
I
the
did.
feature? You did, okay.
Well, no, I had a co-writer on that, Brad Morris, and then we did a lot of
Okay.
improvised stuff. So the beauty of that was like, it was COVID, and the way we did it, like I would just text Margot Martindale or Henry and be like, make up a story, so it was partially scripted, partially improvised.
I'm a big Rose Byrne fan for a long time. I met her when she did Knowing, which was like, I don't know how long ago. That was a long time ago. Yeah. And so I've been a fan of her kind of up and down comedy, drama, back and forth, back and forth. But like, when did you make this movie in between Physical, and then she did Platonic, and then she did If I Had Legs? I mean, when did you do that? When was the like timeline?
We filmed right after If I Had Legs. So we went right after the writer's strike ended 2 years ago. Right now, we were shooting right now. It was in between Palm Royale for me and Your Friends and Neighbors. They're both Apple shows. So I did it between then. She did this, and then she went to Platonic season 2. So we were like, it's that thing with an independent movie where you're like, if it doesn't happen now, it'll never happen.
But you got her right off that Oscar nominated performance, so she was probably still, I don't know, in that thing. And then you have other Oscar winners in this movie. You have so many like Oscar people in this movie and Oscar nominees, and it's interesting. It's interesting. I just was on a TV show talking about the Oscars, and we are talking about the casting Oscar, the new one.
Oh yeah,
and this movie is a perfect example of why casting directors are so important.
Because so true.
Because this has so many characters, and it's obviously so focused on Rose, but every other character is just amazing in this. Like, could you talk about that?
Oh yeah. Of course. Like my long-term like casting partner is Sherry Thomas of By Ali Thomas. And she is like, she's incredible because she thinks out of the box and thinks that like in untraditional ways sometimes, and comes up with things that like completely surprise me. Like Sherry's responsible for Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad and Henry Winkler in Barry, like she just is like, how about this crazy ass idea? And her instincts are so good, and she's such a collaborator, and I fully trust her. So we were very lucky with this because the story resonated with everyone, and everyone we asked said yes. But Sherry and I were very, strategic and being like, this is our group. This is wouldn't this be amazing, if these people would do it? And then thankfully they all said yes and felt that love of Amanda's story to go and tell it.
It was just right after Dominic finished the movie with Alexander Payne. Was it right on then?
Yes, it was out. He was doing the awards run. I think he was at the Independent Spirit Awards on the carpet, and they said, "What are you doing next?" And he said, "Stephanie's movie with Rose Byrne." So it was right when it had come out, and I just in watching that was like, oh, him, And then they have such good chemistry in this movie, and he. Like he even physically like embodies Kevin. I mean, he walks and like the way he stands, I was like, Dom, you're like really like you're Kevin now,
And you worked with Elsie before. Elsie was in your previous movie, and it's really, she has a really interesting role because she's not really, she really has her own scenes. Not really, I don't know.
I know.
Do you still do some of those scenes, like kind of the phone scenes, like were they together still, or
no? I mean, that's the thing. Like the ironic thing with Elsie and I is that we've only done movies together where we're never with anybody else. Like Family Square, she was by herself filming, and then this one I was like, well, you'll do a day by yourself, and it was just her. She did come to set and be the other side of a phone call with Rose, and Rose did the same for her, but they were never together, on camera.
And I like Corbin Bernsen too. He was a great casting. He's also, I mean, I don't think we've ever seen him in a role this much of a jerk, but
but he makes such a great jerk, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was aware Demi Lovato was a child actor, but I can't remember any time, and she did all that Disney stuff, but I can't remember any time I've seen her in a movie.
I know.
Like recently. So it was like when she was great, this nice performance, and she sings and all, but then I was like, oh wait, that's Demi Lovato, who,
Well, another person who disappeared into the role, right? And I think it's been a while since she had done anything on camera, and again, fell in love with the story. We had a lot of conversations about the character, and she just fully gave herself over to the movie. So I love when people watch it and they're like, "Is that Demi Lovato?" And you're like, "Yeah, yes, it is." And of course, when she sings, it's undeniable that it's Demi Lovato.
Now, what kind of research did you do into the homeless situation or the people living in cars in Seattle? And you and Rose, I mean, and the rest of the
Yeah,
cast. Was there a lot of like research to that
yeah.
shelters and the whole thing?
We did a lot of research in Seattle, and then we partnered with Coven House, and Ariana's on the board of Coven House, and we did several days with them. Like I interviewed a lot of people. We toured a lot of shelters. We had a lot of conversations. Every single one of the cast had conversations, when doing their own research. Dominic spoke to the real Kevin, like I think everyone really just dug into like wanting to get things right. Because they're so, shelters are so different. Just like this is a high bar shelter, so they have these rules, and there are other shelters that don't have those rules, or you have your own room, you know what I mean? So we were like, all right, we need to pick one that is authentic to this story.
It's interesting because, like I said, it's hard to believe it's a real story because it's kind of hard to believe someone could go through this for as long. And every time you show the day, it's like I don't know if you saw the long walk, but it's like when you see the mile
Yes,
long walk,
yes.
it's the exact same effect. It's like, holy crap,
Oh,
how is this?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how's this ending? I know. I think that was one of the biggest early notes from people were just like, oh my God, I'm so frustrated. She didn't get any restitution. There was no big payout. Why not? I'm like, but that's the point. Yeah, I know it's really frustrating, but I can't create something that didn't happen. You know what I mean? She didn't win a lot of money. And I think now I was just really happy that people get to see her story.
How did Amanda feel about her story being told? And did you come to the Tribeca premiere
Oh,
last
she
year?
was, yeah,
Oh,
they were
okay,
there.
nice.
Yeah, they were there. They were on set a lot with us. And I think she's very excited that it's coming out. I mean, Kevin and Avery as well. I mean, I'm sure when Amanda was fighting that, never thought that it would end up where it is.
I mean, the fact that she got through it and survived just alone is
Yes,
just.
yeah.
So you're still directing a lot of television, but you're not necessarily directing your own shows. You're kind of directing other shows, and I'm curious about that. How do you go from directing, physical and doing your own sort to just doing the come in, do one episode, go on?
Yeah. I mean, I like that part. I also like with physical, I directed 24 or 30 episodes. So
Yeah.
I didn't create the show, but I was there the entire time. It's the same with your friends and neighbors. At this point, I've done 19 episodes. I've done 9 of them.
Mhm.
And so I like the ownership of that, like of directing the episodic stuff. I have like recently sold my own show, which I can't talk about yet, but I have created something that I have sold. So transitioning over to that a little bit, but I like the TV thing. I like working with the creator of a TV show and then bringing to the table what I can as a director, because it really is about collaboration and elevating the material at every step, of the way.
I mean, other actors you can go like, oh, maybe I can put him in my next movie or next
Oh yeah,
project.
yeah. You're building relationships, right?
Yeah, that is one of the things about when you're directing TV. By the way, I forgot, I was going to ask something about Amanda. Was that Rosie the Riveter look? Was that really her look? Was that really the look that she always had? And
That's all her. Yep, that's how she looks. I mean, at the end of the movie, then we cut to them on the bench and you see them, and that is Amanda. Like we even used her favorite cartoonist designs these T-shirts, and Rose is wearing some of them in the movie, and Avery designed the costumes that Elsie Fisher is wearing.
I do want to ask because did work with Tracy Ullman, who's a kind of a legend, and I love her. And I met her. I interviewed Tracy Ullman, which is not it's a rare thing. But
Yeah.
I was curious about that. Tracy takes on that was fairly early in your career, right? I think, or
Yeah, I was in my early 20s. I look, I mean, Tracy's a chameleon, right? I learned so much from being her producer. In fact, she made me a producer. I was very, very young when I did that. And like I just learned about character and character development, and Tracy would embody these characters, but like obviously talking like them, but she would walk like them. Her mannerisms completely switched. I mean, she was the taxi cab driver we filmed in Vegas, and she went into the women's restroom and got yelled at by the women because they thought she was a man. So,
oh,
that really like formed so much of how I tell stories and the stories I tell, but really like that character development, how important that is. Because then audiences are falling in love with me. You don't even know why. It's like the way you eat, or like with physical, or if a scene where people are jumping into a pool. Well, not everyone jumps into a pool the same way. So it's just that attention to character detail that I really learned from Tracy.
Stephanie, it's so great to meet you. I love Toe, and I hope people go check it out. hopefully, I think it does come out before the Oscars or that
Right
weekend.
after March 20th.
Oh,
Yeah,
right after.
right
Okay.
after. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you know, either people will see it. Maybe hopefully Rose will win if she
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
Either way, but they'll know more people know her and more people want to check out Toe from
Yeah.
that movie. I'm sure. So, thanks so much. Have a great day. Okay. We'll see you.
Thank you.
I had such a good time, y'all. I had such a good time. See you all next weekend at the same time, same place, y'all. Sunday's here. Won't be long before I got to get back to work, y'all. Got to get back to J.O.B. Yeah. All right.
The Holling Coover. The Holling Coover. Okay, that's a new one for you.